The Kate Smith Show, The Texan, The Danny Thomas Show, Father Knows Best, The Ann Southern Show, Hennessy, and The June Allison Show.
From the sports arena in Los Angeles, Walter Cronkite, Edward R. Murrow, Howard K. Smith, Alexander Kendrick, Douglas Edwards, Charles Collingwood, Nancy Hanchman, Lowell Thomas, and 28 other CBS News correspondents report the Democratic National Convention for Westinghouse. Westinghouse, where new ideas mean better electrical products for your home, for industry and defense. You can be sure if it's Westinghouse. Now, here's Walter Cronkite.
Good evening from our anchor desk as CBS News begins the coverage of this 33rd National Democratic Convention. The delegates, 2,900 of them and their alternates, besides 13,000 spectators in the galleries, are now pouring into this sports arena 2.5 miles from downtown Los Angeles, which will be the scene of activity here for the next 4 days. It is believed, and it is the consensus here in Los Angeles this evening, that John Fitzgerald Kennedy, 43-year-old senator from the state of Massachusetts, has pretty well sewed up the nomination for the presidency. But anything can happen still in the next 48 hours, and these delegates are on edge as they come into the hall. Today's proceedings, the opening of this convention. Paul Butler, the national chairman of the Democratic Party, opens proceedings. Dorothy Friedenberg of Birmingham, Alabama, the secretary of the National Committee, calls the roll of the delegates to see that they're all here and accounted for. We hear from the Rules Committee the temporary rules that by which the convention will be governed, and then the oratory opening this convention. Welcomes from the mayor of Los Angeles, Norris Polson. We'll hear from Governor Pat Brown of California, and the keynote address by young Senator Frank Church, the 35-year-old senator from Idaho, who is the temporary chairman and will deliver the keynote address, intended to stir these delegates to new heights of endeavor for their party and promise a bright future for the Democrats. Senator Kennedy seemed to tie up the nomination earlier today when the Pennsylvania delegation caucused and gave him the great majority of its sizable 81-vote block of delegates. Earlier, California had indicated that it was going along that way. There were other breaks for Senator Kennedy today. All of the breaks today seem to be leading toward his nomination. However, several southern states caucused today, and they stood by Senator Lyndon Johnson. He said he was not giving up, that he's used to swimming upstream, and that he is still in the running. Senator Stuart Symington's campaign was still operating, but did not seem to have much hope, since he had based his campaign all along on a deadlock between Senator Johnson and Senator Kennedy, and that didn't seem very likely right now. As you can see, here is the floor of the convention in this sports arena. This is sort of a convention in the round here in California. The podium juts out into the convention floor. The delegates almost surround it, surrounded on 180 degrees at any rate, and the other 180 degrees behind the podium and to the other sides are the 5,500 members of the press, or that portion of the press corps that could get into the hall. Not all of them will have seats at all times, unfortunately, in this hall. The podium is a miracle of modern age, in a sense. It raises and lowers to suit the height of the speaker at the moment. It is equipped with an invisible prompting device that gives the delegates and the speakers a chance to read from a text. You see some of the officials of the convention now massed at the podium as they're preparing for the opening some 25 or 30 minutes away. There are not many delegates on the floor yet, as you see, nor many of the spectators are in the galleries. But they are crowded outside of this hall, and they will be in here very shortly. The Senator Kennedy campaign has moved at such a pace this morning that we were advised just a little while ago from down at the Biltmore Hotel that some of the Symington and Johnson banners have already come down there, leaving only the large Kennedy banners around the headquarters hotel where the activity has been centered for these last 5 or 6 days preceding the opening of the convention itself. There is still a possibility of a civil rights fight at this convention when the platform is presented tomorrow. The draft committee drafting the platform, a 20-member group, turned over its recommendations to the full 109-member platform committee this morning, and there is a lot of dissension in Southern ranks because the temporary or the recommended platform includes the strongest plank on civil rights ever in the Democratic platform, as the way it has been represented to us, a plank that would in effect endorse sit-in strikes and call for strong federal action to end all forms of discrimination. Southern members say this is totally unsatisfactory, and Senator Sam Ervin of North Carolina is said to be drafting a minority report to bring to the convention hall on the floor in a fight tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night if the platform committee insists on that strong a plank. However, none of the Southern delegates have said that they will walk out as yet, but they are represented as being exceedingly angry. Time now for Betty Furness and something new from Westinghouse.
Thank you, Walter, and hello, everybody. I'm sure you're all looking forward to the excitement of this convention just as much as I am. And I have a special pleasure in having this year, and having with me a very special assistant, my daughter, Babby.
Hi, I'll be seeing you.
And now about the news that Walter was talking about. The big news today is the People's Choice Appliance Sale, now going on at Westinghouse dealers all over the country. Now here is just one of the wonderful items included in that sale. It's a convention special laundromat. Like all Westinghouse laundromats, it gives you more washing power. The exclusive Westinghouse washing action that lifts and dips, tumbles and plunges your clothes over and over again through hot, sudsy water. Washing action that means cleaner clothes every time. In addition, this laundromat has special wash settings for any type fabric, big 10-pound capacity, automatic lint ejector, and the exclusive Westinghouse loading door. For really clean clothes, for the automatic washer with more washing power, be sure to see the People's Choice Laundromat. It's part of the big People's Choice Appliance Sale. Now, we know that you'll want to drop in at your Westinghouse dealer now. During this sale, he has a special Get Acquainted offer. This gold anodized aluminum ice tray for only 97 cents. A model similar to this are a $2.95 value. So take advantage of the fantastically low prices on all appliances, including this new laundromat, during the People's Choice Appliance Sale, and pick up your Get Acquainted ice tray. Remember, you can be sure if it's Westinghouse.
Sensitive to any suggestion that they might be giving up the ship this early, Senator Johnson's forces advise us they're not taking down any banners at the Biltmore Hotel permanently. They're taking them down only to move them to more advantageous positions. So the fight still goes on as far as Senator Johnson's forces are concerned. Let's take a look outside this arena now as the delegates are pouring into the hall and go to Charles Carrault.
Well, it wouldn't be very poetic for the sun worshippers of Southern California to hold a convention indoors entirely. And so this one is being held partly outdoors. There you can see the people standing along the ramp that lead into the sports arena. Up there are lobbyists on behalf of every conceivable candidate, including some you may never have heard of. There are just members of the general public up there, too, who are trying to get in, many of them without tickets. And down here are some other sights of Southern California, Walter. They're advertising a Los Angeles restaurant. And this is the yard where the Air Transport Association has set up a flying donkey lounge. It takes a gold key to get in. This is for the delegates. They'll be out here every day. It'll be a rare delegate who won't visit this lounge for soft drinks and cookies. Floating down on the lounge are all kinds of leaflets. One is a warning. You are in great danger, it says. The judgments of God are soon to be poured out upon the earth. There's another one that says, Magoo for president, whoever that may be. Magoo loves everybody, the sign says. Everybody loves Magoo. And another one seems to say, Bruce Edward Brandt is a lifelong Democrat and is ready and willing to accept his party's nomination for president. That's the way we have conventions in Southern California. And now back to Walter Cronkite.
Speaking of Magoo for president, reminds all of us that 1956, in the last Republican convention, we had Joe Smith nominated by a gentleman from Nebraska, a delegate named Terry Carpenter. Well, you may be interested to know that Delegate Terry Carpenter is back at a national convention, not his own, not his Republican convention. He didn't even get elected onto the Nebraska delegation this year, but his wife is a Democrat. She's here as a delegate from Nebraska to the Democratic Convention, and Terry Carpenter, who nominated Joe Smith in 1956, is present in Los Angeles and at the Democratic Convention. High above the floor here at the convention, with a view overlooking all of the proceedings, is Howard Smith. Come in, Howard.
Well, hello, Walter. I think in a purely geographical sense, I'm the most highly placed correspondent here at the convention. I can look down on the head of any speaker at that podium down there, and I've been looking up the records, and all conventions have distinctive features, but this one has more than most. It's the biggest convention ever. It represents 2 more states than we've ever had before. It is the first, I'm told, that has ever been paid for in advance. The City Council of Los Angeles paid the last promised installment last week, and this in a time when payment in the age of the credit card is almost unethical. This is the first convention in which so many women have played a high part. There are more than 600 women as delegates and alternates. It is the first convention in which a Negro has had a high position. Mrs. Belle Phillips of Milwaukee is co-chairman of the Rules Committee, from which we will hear today. It is the first optimistic-toned Democratic convention in 12 years. This time there's a sweet smell of something like success in the air here, and you can hear it when you talk to these people. But I think the outstanding feature is probably this is the convention where the old guard may change. The candidate who is the front runner and who is even claiming victory is 43. His unofficial campaign manager, his brother, is 34. And the keynote speaker we're going to hear down here today is 35, Senator Frank Church. So we're looking forward to seeing a great many new and interesting things here today. Back now to Walter Cronkite.
Here in our anchor position, let me, before the proceedings begin at this first session of the Democratic Convention, introduce my associates at the anchor position. On my left, on your right, Miss Shirley Levine, who's been with me since 1952 at these conventions. And on my right, your left, Sanford Sokolow, who is my assistant for news. Shirley helps me on the communications problems, which are not exactly minor here. Howard Smith was telling you that this is a young convention, and indeed it certainly is. If Senator Kennedy succeeds in this bid for the nomination, and it looks today as if he is practically a shoo-in, he will bring into the party a young force that has no allegiances, no debts at all to the old forces of the political party. Hardly any of the officials from the Truman regime, for instance, or even that of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, are represented in the high ranks of Senator John Fitzgerald Kennedy. If he is nominated, he'll be only the second Catholic in history to be nominated to the presidency. Alfred E. Smith in 1928, the Democratic candidate that year, was the first. He'll be only the second senator in modern history to be nominated. Warren Harding was the first for the Republicans. And he'll be the third youngest candidate in history. William Jennings Bryan, when he was nominated in 1896, was only 36 years old. The Tom Dewey, the Republican candidate in 1944, was 42 years old. Kennedy is 43. The big event today, the one that perhaps settled the fate of the presidential race here, was the meeting of the Pennsylvania delegation in its caucus. Let's take a look now at that caucus as we hear from Governor David Lawrence.
I think
this is Stuart Symington.
I may just leave one message with you this morning as I see what's coming up. We want to put before the American people the record of this Republican administration. From here on, they are going to do their very best to pretend that they're Democrats until November. We're going to see Mr. Nixon try very hard to back up the policies and programs of the Eisenhower administration. At the same time, he assures the American people that he's going to do everything he can to change those programs when he gets into office. As my son Jimmy says, it reminds him of the fellow who had a date with a Siamese twin. And when he came back, his roommate said, "Did you have any fun?" And he said, "Well, yes and no." It's slow, but it's there.
Now, the man who very obviously is quite popular in this Pennsylvania delegation by the applause he got when he came in, Senator Jack Kennedy of Massachusetts.
I appreciate very much your invitation to be here. In 1956, I came to the Pennsylvania caucus and asked their support in the race for vice president. But Pennsylvania, as always, was wiser than I was. They spared me that fate, and I'm here today to say that I am a candidate for the office of the President of the United States. The trip from Massachusetts to Los Angeles takes 5 hours by jet, but it's taken me 6 months. I came to the state of Pennsylvania in Pittsburgh in a luncheon in December, and I said that I would come to the Pennsylvania caucus in July after running in every open primary that was then available. And I have done so. And I come here today after submitting my name, submitting my chances and my fortune to the voters, the Democratic voters of 7 states, ranging from New Hampshire and New England to Oregon on the West Coast. I come here today asking your support in what I agree with Senator Mulroney is the most important election in the last 100 years. I run for the presidency after 14 years in the Congress for the same reason that I ran for the House of Representatives in 1946. And that is because I was brought up in my father's house to be devoted to the interests of this country. I could not stay in the Congress, and Senator Johnson will agree, without realizing that the presidency is the key office. It is the center of action. And unless this country is prepared to move ahead, then I think we lose not only our own security, but the cause of freedom. Lincoln said 100 years ago, this nation cannot exist, half slave and half free. I don't think the world will exist, half slave and half free. And whether it moves in the direction of freedom, or whether it moves in the direction of slavery, depends upon the United States. I come here today asking your support. I can assure you that if I am nominated, I will campaign Pennsylvania. And I think we're going to win in November. And when we win in November, we're going to make this election the most significant that's been in 25 years. Thank you very much.
And now speaking last, because he was chosen that way by lot, Senator Johnson, the Majority Leader of the Senate.
Now, I'm not going to take your time talking about Jack Kennedy and Adlai Stevenson and Stu Symington, because they are 3 of the noblest men I know. And anything that I said about them that didn't reflect great credit, Nixon would have me explaining between now and November. Our country is in trouble. Some people labor under the misapprehension that it's just our president. Well, he has just a few more weeks to serve, and there's not much that he can do about it. Then he's going to enjoy the quietness of his Gettysburg farm. It's not the president's in trouble, it's the country that's in trouble. And it's going to take the dead level best effort of each of us if we are to survive. But we're going to survive. We're going to face up to it as idealists. We're going to seek the best, but we're going to be realists and do the possible. And whoever this convention nominates, and I could give you some recommendations in that regard, but whoever this convention nominates is going to take on the most awesome responsibility that ever faced any individual. Jack, my wife said this to me before I announced. I don't guess she'd want it in the papers now. But see, she says what really frightens me is, suppose we won. And that's more truth than poetry. Whoever is your nominee is going to be president. Whoever is president is going to have to lead all of America. Because if we don't unite, if we can't submerge our differences, if we can't find an area of agreement, if we can't be constructive and responsible and worthy to not only lead 180 million people, but to lead 2/3 of the free and uncommitted world, then the same thing that happened to the Romans can happen to us. You're a wonderful group. I have great respect for your decisions. I know whatever they are, they will be based on the finest motives and your best judgment. And if Pennsylvania should decide that some of its delegates could give me their support, I would be highly honored. I would treasure your confidence, and I'd work my fingernails off to be worthy of it. Thank you, and God bless you.
The powerful and popular Senate Majority Leader also gets a very enthusiastic response to his fighting speech also before this Pennsylvania delegation. But he seemed to be pointing in the direction of young Senator Kennedy, who sits to his left.
Here across this lovely courtyard in a really smoke-filled room, the key meeting of this pre-convention morning is taking place. It's the secret caucus of the Pennsylvania delegation. And the results of that caucus may give Senator Kennedy the magic 761 votes that he needs to win the Democratic nomination. It looks now pretty sure for Kennedy. The two kingmakers in that secret caucus, Governor Lawrence of Pennsylvania and Congressman Green, have both thrown their support to Senator Kennedy, and it looks as though they will carry at least 65 to 70 of Pennsylvania's 81 votes. And now we've just heard that the caucus is breaking up. Here again is Doug Edwards.
The Pennsylvania Secret Caucus is now over. The results are in. Kennedy 64 votes, Stevenson 8, Johnson 4.5, Symington 1, and 1.5 for Governor Minor of New Jersey. And now let's go over and get it official from Governor Lawrence himself.
No, I made a statement to the caucus at its opening in which I said that I had previously supported Governor Stevenson, but that I had felt that after these primaries that Kennedy had won, in face of the fact that in Pennsylvania he had over 150,000 write-in votes for the nomination, I felt that we would be running against the wishes of the people, the Democrats of the state, if we didn't cast our votes for him in the convention.
The other events this morning that added to the near stampede toward Senator Kennedy were the announcement by Senator Hubert Humphrey, who was defeated by Kennedy in both Wisconsin and West Virginia primaries, that he was releasing the 63.5 delegates pledged to him. He did not endorse Senator Kennedy or any other candidate, but invited his 63.5 votes to vote their own consciences. The governor of Iowa, as had been expected, Herschel Lovelace, announced that he would cast his first free vote, his first free ballot for Kennedy, and he's expected to carry 16 of the 26 Iowa votes along with him. Governor Lovelace, however, is a favorite son, and by the state convention's order, the Iowa delegation is pledged to vote for him on the first ballot. Senator Henry Jackson of the state of Washington also said he was for Kennedy and is believed to carry 10.5 of the Washington votes with him. So the Kennedy bandwagon rolled on. The report you saw from the Pennsylvania delegation caucus, which was the highlight of the morning's proceedings, was brought to you on videotape, recorded earlier by CBS News. Edward R. Murrow has been out on the floor of this convention talking to the early arriving delegates. Ed, how does it look at this moment?
Walter, this is, I think, a rather different kind of convention, at least different from any that I have ever seen before, but one thing hasn't changed. The first delegates to come through the doors were laden down with rumors. And I think the most impressive thing out there is the fact that the Stevenson campaign refuses to die. Mike Monroney says that Kennedy is still 75 votes short of what he needs, and Monroney is confident. But I think the most impressive thing about this convention is that it is serious. I have never heard such serious talk by politicians at any previous convention, and they do not appear to be concerned so much about who's going to get the nomination. They're much more concerned first about the state of their party, the state of this country, and the state of the world. You hear a considerable amount of discussion of the Catholic issue already, many people wondering whether the fact that it does not seem to be a bar in local and state elections, whether that will carry over to a national election. Perhaps it is the impact of news that comes in from the outside of events in Cuba, Mexico, the shooting down of the plane, that has produced this climate of opinion. But certainly there is no hoopla, there is no great excitement. This is as serious and almost solemn a group of politicians as I have ever seen. Many of them are younger than they have been in previous years. The convention may change, but certainly on this opening day, it is a very serious group of people. In the area of rumors, and this one I think was new at least to me, and Walter, I didn't start it. The latest rumor is that Alabama will yield to Texas and Lyndon Johnson will then nominate Adlai Stevenson. The general climate out there on the floor seems to be that this is not yet all over. Back to you, Walter.
Ed, it's most interesting, the rumor you picked up, because the dispatches from the caucuses this morning indicated that Senator Lyndon Johnson was indeed seeming to praise Adlai Stevenson at these caucuses.
The infighting so far, Walter, I think you would agree, has been rather polite and rather temperate. But certainly there is a widespread belief that the old pro Lyndon Johnson isn't about to just give up and fade away, and he may try a ploy of some kind.
It certainly is going to keep the excitement here, I think, at the top notch right up to the time the balloting begins. We won't know all of the tricks they may have up their sleeve until that moment. And now we take you to another studio here at the Sports Arena in Los Angeles, where we'll meet Fred Davis and see what's new from Westinghouse.
The solution to a big problem, Walter, moving 250,000 people a day in and out of an office building. That's the kind of crowds Westinghouse elevators and electric stairways will handle in Grand Central City, now going up in New York, right next to Grand Central Terminal, where this scale model was on display. This building will be the largest office building in the world. 25,000 people will work in its 59 floors of offices. And to get to the top floors, they'll have the fastest elevators in the world. These Westinghouse elevators will travel 1,600 feet a minute, and that's 200 feet a minute faster than any others. An electronic brain will automatically make sure that every floor gets good, speedy service, because Manhattan is a hurry-up town. And 21 Westinghouse electric stairways like these will move more people than the total population of Jacksonville or Richmond or Syracuse every day. It's a big job moving people in and out of the biggest office building in the world, isn't it? Visit Grand Central City after it's built and see for yourself why Westinghouse elevators and electric stairways got the job. You can be sure if it's Westinghouse.
Back here at the Sports Arena in Los Angeles, awaiting the opening gavel for the 33rd Democratic National Convention. It should be coming just a moment or two from now, although, as you see, many of the delegates are still not here. There's a crowd of cars outside pouring into the parking lots to deposit these delegates, and perhaps the opening shall be delayed for a while. We'll be back in just a moment after this pause for station identification.
Stay tuned for more convention coverage on the CBS television network.
Position in the sports arena for this Democratic convention, which will be getting underway very shortly now. As we reported earlier to you, it appears that Senator John Kennedy of Massachusetts is thundering down the home stretch toward perhaps a first ballot nomination for the presidency. However, there is a possibility of a floor fight that could open things up wide here tomorrow when the Platform Committee presents its report. Let's find out what's happening at that Platform Committee now by going down to Bernard Eisman at the Hotel Ambassador.
For the members of the Platform Committee, it's going to be a little late in getting to the convention hall. They're still locked up here in the Ambassador Hotel, where they've been since 10 o'clock this morning, when a secret meeting to consider the planks in the party's platform was called. By far, the most important and probably most troublesome plank is the civil rights plank, which CBS News reported earlier in the day was the most far-reaching one ever offered by any Democratic or Republican convention. One senator came out and said it was the strongest thing he had ever seen. That civil rights fight is about to commence any minute now. In rapid-fire order, the Platform Committee earlier today took up the items of foreign affairs. Foreign affairs, a condemnation of Eisenhower administration foreign policy, was discussed at great length, but no formal vote was called for. Next item on the agenda was farm policy. The plank calling for high price supports and 90% of parity was approved by a 66 to 22 vote after considerable debate. Another vote that shows perhaps the complexion of the Platform Committee was the plank on immigration controls. The plank calls for a relaxation of tight immigration policy, and that was voted in favor 66 to 28. Other items taken up quickly this afternoon were general welfare, minerals, labor. Foreign policy, which started it, ended quickly. Now civil rights may keep the delegates here for a considerable amount of time. There's still no indication when they might get out. Items they have to consider are the right to allow the Federal Attorney General to initiate civil rights injunctions on his own, a call for compliance with the Supreme Court School Integration Order by 1963, the 100th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. Other items are in it too. They've all been fought by the Southern leaders. Senators Eastland and Stennis have been here all day. Now back to Walter Cronkite at the Anchor Studio.
With the Platform Committee problems to come up tomorrow, the balloting for the presidency on Wednesday, there is talk now already of who Senator Kennedy, assuming he is the candidate, will pick for his vice presidential running mate. He has given indications he does not intend to throw the vice presidential nomination open, as did Adlai Stevenson in 1956, to a free choice of the convention, that he feels he should have a part in naming that vice presidential running mate, as has been a habit and custom up to 1956. It is understood that he is looking with great favor on Senator Stuart Symington of Missouri, Herschel Lovelace, the governor of Iowa, and the governor of Kansas, George Docking. All of them fit his feeling that he should have an older man, perhaps, a man from the Middle West, and a man who understands farm problems. But also campaigning hard for the vice presidency, and even to the extent of opening vice presidential campaign headquarters, is Senator Henry Jackson of Washington. There are others being mentioned also. Governor Adlai Stevenson of Illinois, who has been mentioned prominently here, is holding a news conference down at the Biltmore Hotel. Here is Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt coming to the platform down there. Let's switch down there for that event.
Governor Stevenson will speak first. This is one of the few times in which the candidate introduces his supporter. Usually here it's been the other way around. Governor Stevenson is about to be introduced.
Thank you very much for waiting. I'd like to present Governor Adlai Stevenson.
The enthusiasm we hear comes from Stevenson's supporters. The reporters for whom this news conference is being held are busy noting it, but not taking part.
Roosevelt and members of the press and guests, I went to a luncheon this noon in Beverly Hills for Mrs. Roosevelt in her honor. While I was there, I was told that she was going to meet with you here this afternoon and asked if I cared to introduce her. I responded, as you can see, eagerly and with a great sense of both the honor and also the awkwardness of this occasion. I was reminded of a famous classic letter that an ardent young man wrote to his girl, in which he said, "Darling, I would cross the burning deserts with bare feet. I would transverse the highest Himalayas in winter. I would swim the oceans to be at your side. And I'll see you Saturday night. Love. P.S. if it doesn't rain." My feeling about Mrs. Roosevelt is exactly the same except for the P.S. I have had the great good fortune to be associated with her from time to time in endeavors from the first General Assembly of the United Nations in London in the twilight of the war. I have followed in her footsteps across most of the continents of the world. I witnessed myself scenes of devotion that have no counterpart for most living mortals. People standing with their heads bared as she passed by. I have come to think of her not alone as the best known and the best liked and the best loved American of our time, but as our most distinguished and most effective ambassador to the world. That she has made common cause with me in minor endeavors of no public consequence in the past, in large endeavors of great public consequence, if minimal success in the more recent past, has been, I suppose, the greatest honor that has befallen me. It has been my good fortune, as some of you here well know, to have met and known and talked with and corresponded with most of the leaders of my generation throughout the world. I have yet to meet one of the moral stature, of the moral influence, of the public residence of Mrs. Roosevelt, that she has seen fit to come here from New York on a mission that has come to my attention in the last few hours, has touched me very deeply, and it is therefore with honor, with pride, and as I have explained to you, with some sense of embarrassment, that I take this opportunity that has been afforded me to present it to you this afternoon, and I am sure she will understand if I feel obliged to leave, which I must, to make another engagement.
It sounded more as though Governor Stevenson were presenting Mrs. Roosevelt as a candidate for nomination than vice versa. The grand old lady of the Democratic Party took it in her stride, and now she's about to speak.
This is a very sizable press conference. I thought most of you gentlemen and ladies would have already left, because I must apologize for being late, but that's because your streets are very crowded. Even with through range, you move very slowly on. And I apologize, and now I'm ready for your questions.
Roosevelt.
Will you repeat, because I may not be able to hear. If I hear, all right.
Mrs. Roosevelt, modern United President, statement issued by the Speaker
I doubted. I gave the reasons why I felt, first of all, that the strongest ticket we could put in the field would be Stevenson and Kennedy. I felt that ticket would win without any question in November. I felt that there was less hope for a ticket which Kennedy headed, Senator Kennedy, and the reasons I gave were because, one, I doubted his strength very strongly with the Negro vote. I doubted that he could carry the Negro vote. And also that while I was extremely grateful to find that we had not, in this nominating period, had any of what I would call real prejudice from the religious point of view, I could not be sure from the trend that I saw that that would continue through until November. And for those two reasons, I felt that it would be a rather quick jump from senator to president for this particular senator, and that I felt it would be a very much stronger and surer going forward in his career, and surer for the country if the ticket this autumn were a Stevenson-Kennedy ticket, which I consider the strongest ticket that we could put in the field.
Mr. Kennedy, Mrs. Roosevelt.
We must leave Mrs. Roosevelt's news conference at the Biltmore Hotel because Lou Schollenberger down at the platform says that Paul Butler, who you see there on your screen, is just about to call this convention to order. Although, as you have seen in looking around the hall, many of the delegates, probably a majority of them, are not yet in the hall. Paul Butler is there with some of the principals of this convention. Over on the far right of your screen, you see Clarence Cannon, the representative from Missouri, who has been the parliamentarian of the Democratic conventions for almost 30 years, who is an expert in parliamentary procedure, has written the rule book, and you'll see at the platform quite frequently. And now Paul Butler, chairman of the party, about to call this convention to order. A few sample blows for the photographers, and then we'll be underway. Convention session that gets underway within 15 minutes of the time it was scheduled is almost precedent-breaking in its own right. Opening this convention will be one of the last major functions of Paul Butler as chairman of the Democratic National Committee, a position he has held longer than any man in the history of the party, excepting James Farley.
Please take their seats.
Mr. Butler is resigning from his post as chairman, and after 7.5 years of considerable controversy, but he points to a record of cleaning up the party's budget.
Will the delegates please take their seats in their own delegation chairs?
Cleaning up the budget and returning the party to party's affairs to the National Committee rather than to strong state leaders. It is that policy of his which has helped Senator John Kennedy, as a matter of fact.
Convention
of the Democratic Party of the United States is now called in session. I have the honor and the proud privilege to present His Eminence, the Archbishop of the Catholic Archdiocese of Los Angeles, James Francis Cardinal McIntyre, who will offer the invocation. Cardinal McIntyre.
On this, the 11th day of July, in the year of our Lord 1960, here in the fair city of Our Lady, Queen of the Angels, assembled in convention are the delegates of the Democratic Party of the United States of America. The primary purpose of this conclave is to select the candidate that this party will present to the consideration of the electorate next November for the supreme office of President of the United States. We are a nation founded, we are a nation functioning in the declared recognition of the existence of a supreme being who is our creator and the source of all human rights. We are ever aware of God's providence and God's protection over the life that we live. In all our undertakings, we are dependent upon His divine assistance. It is therefore appropriate, it is proper, it is right, it is just and salutary that we inaugurate the deliberations of this immensely important proceeding by invoking God's wisdom and God's guidance. The honorable delegates of this convention function in a representative capacity. They will exercise a delegated power as they cast their votes for the candidates presented. This power comes to them by procedural selection. While it comes with more or less specific instructions or expressions or preference, this power in reality draws its origin from the source of all power, from Almighty God. There is no power but from God, and those who are appointed by God. Civil authority is of God. We know this not so much by revelation or by positive instruction as by the self-evident fact that God is the author of nature, and man's social nature requires that civil authority be established and that it be obeyed. What nature absolutely requires, that God commands. What nature absolutely rejects as incompatible with man's well-being, that God forbids. Hence it is that all just authority comes from God. God binds men in conscience to observe the rule of the state within the sphere of its competence. Thus, the exercise of delegated authority is governed by the demands of conscience and by the laws of nature and by the laws of nature's God. Now let us be mindful further that in the fulfillment of this responsibility imposed by the exercise of authority, God in His great mercy, God in His great providence, supplies the special gifts and the guidance necessary to conduct that responsibility in justice, in integrity, and in charity. Thus, the promise of divine assistance overshadows your actions during this convention, and it awaits your cooperation. The history of our beloved land gives testimony to the guidance and the protection which God has always furnished to our country's leaders. Confidence in His continued blessing should give you assurance as you approach your present responsibilities. The grave importance of this moment is obvious. This gravity emphasizes the responsibility which you bear. It is a responsibility which is shared in by millions of our fellow Americans as they follow your deliberations with intense interest and great concern. As your spokesman and as their spokesman, I know that I express the impulses of all our minds and our hearts as we lift these minds and hearts with supplication to Almighty God in fervent petition that His divine wisdom will prevail in your decisions and that His manifold blessings will ever remain with you abundantly through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Cardinal McIntyre. And now, our wonderful Democratic brass band with John T. Bedreau, its conductor. And now, the Senorita Junior Colored Guard, the Ambassador's Drum and Bugle Corps, the Highlanders Colored Guard, and the Los Angeles Chinese Drum and Bugle Corps in the presentation of the colors. Present our lovely hostesses from California, the Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls are a specially recruited force of lovelies who have been acting as official hostesses for the state of California here at the convention proceedings. They are, in a sense, walking information booths, helping delegates and officials of the convention in finding their way around the complexities of the sprawling city of Los Angeles. You'll notice that the hall has filled rapidly in these last few minutes. Part of the problem in the delegates getting here is that this is just now 5:25 Los Angeles time. It's the height of the rush hour, and many of the delegates are caught in the crowds on the freeway that pour out this way from the Los Angeles Center.
And now here are some of our friends from the Committee for the Arts of the Democratic National Committee who want to join in welcoming you, the delegates and alternates and our guests to this convention. Mr. Ralph Bellamy. Miss Margot Bloom. Mr. Lloyd Bridges. Miss Vanessa Brown. Mr. Nat King Cole. Mr. Tony Curtis. Mr. Sammy Davis, Jr. Miss Rosemary DeCant. Mr. Anthony Franciosa. Miss Marilyn Hare. Mr. George Jessel. Miss Phyllis Kurt. Miss Hope Lang. Mr. Peter Lawford.
Peter Lawford is Senator John Kennedy's brother-in-law.
Miss Shirley McLean. Miss Mercedes McCambridge. Mr. Lee Marvin. Miss Sherry North. Mr. Arthur O'Connell. Miss Alma Pedrosa. Mr. Vincent Price. Mr. Edward G. Robinson. Mr. Frank Sinatra.
Mr. Sinatra has been working actively in the campaign for Senator Kennedy. This is Jan Sterling.
Miss Inger Stevens. And the last but not least, Miss Shelley Winters. And our musical director for the entire convention, Mr. Johnny Green. Ladies and gentlemen of the convention, our national anthem. For a most magnificent rendition of our national anthem. And now, while all of you remain standing, the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, to be led by the supervisor of Los Angeles County, in whose supervisorial district we are now holding our convention, the 2nd District of Los Angeles County, the Honorable Kenneth Hahn.
Let all Americans, wherever you are, if it is possible, join us in Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena in paying tribute on this historic occasion to our new 50-star flag by pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Just for what purpose?
We were supposed to say
Oh.
the 49th for ourselves.
Are they here?
I don't know if
Are they here?
All right, okay, they're here. I'll get the plate.
Get them to move.
conferring with Paul Butler up at the podium was Alan Rifkin, who has helped
May I
arrange
make
this
an
program.
announcement, please? I would like to request that the following members of the Democratic National Committee come to the rear of the platform, where they will be recognized at the foot of the stairs and come up to the offices in the rear of this platform. The Honorable Harry Wall of Idaho, Mrs. Lisa Bronson of Arizona, the Honorable Richard Dubord of Maine, Mrs. John Garland Pollard of Virginia, and the Honorable David T. Wilentz of New Jersey.
Despite the indications of Senator John Kennedy on an early ballot, the Senate forces of Senator Johnson are certainly not giving up. We've just been advised by Phil Scheffler there that the Johnson camp still is counting 640 votes for Kennedy on the first ballot. It takes 761 to nominate. Phil Scheffler reported that to us just a moment ago. Johnson still says 640 votes for Kennedy, not 761.
These wonderful stars of the entertainment world who have entertained us this afternoon.
It's also been reported to us in our newsroom here by CBS News correspondent Stuart Novins that Ohio's Governor Mike DeSalle has been having a secret meeting with Senator Stuart Symington of Missouri. Mike DeSalle is in Senator John Kennedy's camp, and the meeting between DeSalle and Symington has given rise to reports that perhaps Senator Kennedy has begun feeling out the possibilities for a vice presidential nomination to be on the ticket with him. Time now for Betty Furness and something new from Westinghouse.
Today, one of the newest...
Mother.
Not now, dear.
I just wanted to let you know where I'm going.
Going? What do you mean?
I just wanted to let you know where I'm going to build that house someday.
Oh, Babby.
So you know that fantastic vacation home you saw up on the lake here in Illinois?
Yes.
I think it would look just great on the dunes here on the tip of Cape Cod.
Well, you're absolutely right, dear. Babby's referring to a home at Lake Killarney near Cary, Illinois. And this brand new Westinghouse Total Electric Gold Medallion home, it was designed for Westinghouse by skilled architect Bob Little, here giving me a guided tour. This home seems to belong here as naturally as the lake itself.
Well, actually, it was designed to fit with almost any natural rustic setting.
I see that you've provided the Food Preparation Center with all the latest Westinghouse built-in cooking conveniences.
Here's a feature I'm proud of. This shelf folds down to let you pass foods through easily into the dining area.
That's nice for casual vacation living. Also, I noticed that you've specified electric heating, the heart of every total electric home.
Yes, it's clean, quick, and dependable, and this means a lot in a vacation home.
Like in Cape Cod, right, Mother?
Right. If you're planning to build or buy, why not send for this free Westinghouse Plans Guide with plans, sketches, and details on 16 homes designed for Westinghouse by the country's leading architects. Just send a card to Westinghouse, Box A, Mansfield, Ohio.
That's Westinghouse, Box A, Mansfield, Ohio.
We pause now for station identification.
Stay tuned for more convention coverage on the CBS television network.
Back here at the Sports Arena in Los Angeles for the opening session of the Democratic National Convention. We have heard the invocation, the Star-Spangled Banner, the national anthem, and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and now the business of the convention is about to begin. It will begin with the official call of the roll of the delegations. Here's Paul Butler, the national chairman.
Convention will now be taken. Let me direct your attention to the cameras right up here above the rostrum, and if you will just be in order and be yourselves, the official photograph will be taken.
Let's go down to the floor of the convention hall itself, where Nancy Hunchman is standing by with Ted Kennedy.
Hello, Walter. With me here is Ted Kennedy, the younger brother of Jack Kennedy. Ted, tell us, what are you doing here on the convention floor at this point?
Well, I've been working in my brother's behalf in the western part of the country, and now I'm trying to stay in touch with those people and find out what the sentiment is.
Are you picking up any delegate votes here?
Oh, well, I think hourly it's looking better and better. We're most optimistic as to the outcome.
Well, I understand that you have only 25 votes, or 22, something like that, in California. Is it any larger than that?
Well, we expect to get a substantial, I'd say substantially larger than that number.
How much
I think it's
more?
really, well, I think that I think as far as the exact figure, I think it'll be considerably more than 22 to 25. I would think somewhere above 40.
I see. Well, are you looking still for a first victory ballot?
Well, I am, yes, I certainly am.
Is your brother Jack? That's
well, I'm looking forward to it, but I don't think he'll quite come out and say it yet.
Not quite yet. When do you think you will?
Well, I think after the get to the 761 mark. I don't think until then, that time there.
Thank you very much, Ted Kennedy.
Thank you.
Now back to Walter Cronkite in the booth.
At the podium, Paul Butler is still waiting to call on Mrs. Dorothy Fredenberg of Alabama, who is the secretary of the Democratic National Committee, who will call the roll. This will be the only time that she appears to call the roll, unless perhaps she is called on in the future by the man who is expected to be the permanent chairman of the convention, who will be recommended by the Convention Arrangements Committee, Governor Leroy Collins of Florida. After the convention gets underway, he takes care of that part of the proceedings. Now Charles Collingwood down on the floor there with Jim Farley. Come in, Charles.
I'm standing down here with Jim Farley, who is known to most people who follow Democratic conventions. Jim, how many Democratic conventions have you
Well, my
attended?
first convention was in 1924 in Madison Square Garden, and I've been told of conventions since that time.
You call this a typical convention?
Well, yes, they're all typical. They're all alike. The pattern is the same. The only thing about it, there are new faces each year, each 4 years. New leaders come in, new governors come in, and new delegates. But the pattern is the same.
Any estimate of the number of votes in the New York delegation for Stevenson?
Well, I think they said there was only 2.5 or 3 votes. Kennedy, the roll call this morning, or the caucus, had 101 votes.
That's for Kennedy.
That's for Kennedy.
Right, and he's your candidate, too.
Well, I said I'd vote for Kennedy in January, long before we came to Chicago. Long before we came here to Los Angeles.
Now back to Walter Cronkite.
Thank you, Charles Collingwood, with Jim Farley. And this is Mrs. Dorothy Fredenberg, the secretary of the committee, arranging to call the roll.
3939 South Figueroa Street, City of Los Angeles, State of California, on the 11th day of July, 1960, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Pacific Daylight Savings Time, for the purpose of selecting nominees for President and Vice President of the United States of America, to adopt and promulgate a platform, and to take such other action with respect to any other matters as the convention may deem advisable. Notice is hereby given that the following resolutions have been approved by the Democratic National Committee with recommendation that they be adopted as rules applicable to the 1960 Democratic National Convention. Be it resolved by the Democratic National Committee that first, it is the understanding that a state Democratic Party in selecting and certifying delegates to the Democratic National Convention thereby undertakes to assure that voters in the state will have the opportunity to cast their election ballots for the presidential and vice presidential nominees.
Delegates, please be quiet.
For the presidential and vice presidential nominees selected by said convention, and for electors pledged formally or in good conscience to the election of these presidential and vice presidential nominees under the Democratic Party label and designation. Second, it is understood that the delegates to the Democratic National Convention, when certified by the state Democratic Party, are bona fide Democrats who have the interests, welfare, and success of the Democratic Party at heart, and will participate in the convention in good faith, and therefore no additional assurances shall be required of delegates to the Democratic National Convention in the absence of credential contest or challenge.
Will the delegates please take their chairs?
That was Speaker of the House, Sam Rayburn, entering the hall, as you saw a moment ago, and getting applause from many of the delegates as he makes his way down the aisle to the Texas delegation. Ron Cochran has come up to our anchor position here after being down on the floor among the delegates, picking up some of the sidelights of this convention proceeding. What have you observed down there, Ron?
Well, Walter, everybody's been reporting on what's going on in the front of the hall. I thought I'd take a stroll around back to see who was there. And the first fellow I recognized was William Miller, who's better known to everybody in Washington as Fishbait Miller. For years, the Sergeant-at-Arms of the House and the Sergeant-at-Arms of the Democratic National Convention. This year, Fishbait lost the job as Sergeant-at-Arms because Mr. Butler chose to give it to Monroe Goldwater of New York. And of all things, Fishbait this year is here in this convention hall wearing press credentials. And I asked him for whom he was reporting. He said Sam Rayburn, who, of course, is the Speaker of the House. So Sam still has a little authority. He can make Fishbait Miller a reporter. Also in the back of the convention hall is the Tennessee delegation, and I talked to one of the delegates who said, you see how things changed from in 4 years. He said the last time we were at this convention, when Senator Kefauver was a prominent candidate, we were right down front. Now look at us. We can't see the podium because our view is partly blocked off by a camera position and also by a sea of banners. That's the way it looked in the back of the hall, Walter.
Right, Ron. You know that these seats were allocated, the positions here, on the basis of the performance of the states in the Democratic ranks, particularly by their contribution to the party coffers. Those states that made their quota, as set by Paul Butler and the National Committee, got the seats up front. Those who made less percentages of their quota got seats toward the rear. So it's all on a dollars and cents basis.
The man from Tennessee didn't seem to realize that.
Down on the floor, Dorothy Vredenberg, the secretary of the National Committee, is continuing to read the call of the convention, the National Committee's rules of the convention call. And Paul Butler's having little trouble keeping the delegates in order while this routine matter of business is dispensed with. She's now reading the number of delegates who are allotted to each state. That is the number of votes. Most of the states have split their delegations so that most of the delegates have a half a vote each. Ms. Vredenberg, incidentally, has been secretary of the Democratic National Conventions here and the National Committee since 1944. This is her 5th consecutive convention. She is a widow from Birmingham, Alabama.
Michigan 51, Minnesota 31, Mississippi.
Let's go back to the floor of the convention with Nancy Hunchman.
Montana 17.
What? With me here is Congressman Charlie Brown, the campaign manager for Senator Stuart Symington. Tell me, Congressman Brown, how are you doing?
Well, we think we're doing all right. It's difficult to separate fact from fantasy right at this point, Nancy. I honestly think that Senator Kennedy is close to the goal line, but the umpire hasn't thrown up his hands and yelled touchdown yet, and until that happens, well, we're still in there fighting.
Still in the race. What about the vice presidential post? Do you think that your candidate, Senator Symington, would be anxious to have that or would seek it?
Well, Senator Symington told the Missouri caucus this afternoon that he was still a candidate for president. He was not a candidate for vice president and would not be a candidate.
And you think it's likely that he'll change his mind on that? You know, a lot of candidates do once the pressure of the campaign gets going, and the pressures will be put on him, maybe.
Well, I think it would take an awfully lot of urging. Senator Symington has said many times that he preferred to be in the Senate, that he was building up seniority there. But, you know, of course, anything could happen in the closing hours of the convention.
Well, do you expect to get the nomination at this point, though, Mr. Charlie Brown?
Well, we think there's still a chance. Our strategy from the beginning has been to let these other front runners run themselves out, and then we'd see what we could do.
Well, thank you very much, Congressman Charlie Brown. Back now to Walter Cronkite.
Paul Butler has just returned to the microphone. Mrs. Bredenberg has completed the call of the convention, the secretarial role at the opening of the convention, the first official order of business. Mr. Butler is making an announcement thanking an organization for the contribution of the Bible, which will be at the podium. We'll go back now to the floor, to the podium, and Chairman Paul Butler.
Now may I present to this convention the Democratic National Committee man from South Dakota for the purpose of a presentation, the Honorable Cobb L. Chase of South Dakota.
Mr. Chairman, delegates and guests of the convention, some time ago, the American Legion officers of South Dakota asked me to arrange for the presentation of a gavel to this convention. They wanted to do that. We expected to have our distinguished Legionnaire, Congressman George McGovern, make the presentation, but he has been detained at home. This gavel is made from the tongue of a covered wagon. It seems that one of the early emigrants coming to the upper Midwest broke their wagon tongue in the great state of Wisconsin, whereupon they cut down the tree, made a new tongue, and with that transported their goods across Wisconsin and Minnesota to a third great state, South Dakota, where they settled. It is therefore, Mr. Chairman, with a great deal of pride that I comply with the request of the officers of the American Legion and present to you and through you this gavel for the Democratic National Convention of 1960.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chase, and I'm sure that as you see the comparison between these two gavels, there will be a greater opportunity and more effectiveness in the use of this good-sized gavel from South Dakota. Thanks to you and to the American Legion of South Dakota for this gavel. Let's see how it sounds. And now the chair will recognize the great governor of the state of Iowa, the Honorable Herschel Lovelace, the chairman of the Committee on Rules.
Now we take you to another studio here at the Sports Arena in Los Angeles, where we'll meet Betty Furness and hear some news from Westinghouse.
Governor
The news, Walter, is that I can't find my Westinghouse mobile air conditioner.
Here it is, Mother. I just borrowed it to use in the next room.
Well, that's life with a mobile air conditioner. It's so easy to roll it from room to room that your child may borrow it right out from under your nose. But isn't it wonderful that now you can cool any room in your house with just this one mobile air conditioner by Westinghouse? Thanks, dear. Whenever you want to be cool, just slide this special adjustable frame into the window and tighten it. It only takes a few moments. Then slide the mobile air into the frame with a little push that automatically locks it. Plug it into any adequately wired outlet, turn it on, and cool off. Easily and simply as that.
May I have the mobile air back now, Mother?
Well, after I tell them about the Big People's Choice appliance sale. That's my good girl. Where the price on the mobile air is the lowest ever. Now, what's more, if you visit your Westinghouse dealer during this sale, this gold anodized aluminum ice tray is yours for only 97 cents. Now, models similar to this are a $2.95 value.
Now, Mother?
Oh, all right, take it away. Visit your Westinghouse dealers soon. See all his marvelous bargains and get your Get Acquainted ice tray. Honestly, you're never sure what your children will do next, but you can be sure if it's Westinghouse.
Governor Herschel Lovelace of Iowa, who is just at the podium, asked for unanimous consent to accept the rules of the convention as decided upon by the Rules Committee. There was no objection and the rules have been adopted. There had been talk last week of a possible fight over the rules, but this fight did not develop. Let's go back to the podium, and here is Paul Butler.
This city at this time. This man has been the mayor of Los Angeles for a good many years. He has done an effective job for the city of Los Angeles, and he has been a most generous and hospitable host to all of us. We have had the fullest cooperation from the mayor's office and all of the departments of the city, and as a matter of fact, all of the governmental units of Southern California in planning this convention in which you are now taking part. And it's my great honor and privilege to present the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, the City of the Angels, the leader of the Angels of Los Angeles, His Honor the Mayor, the Honorable Norris Polson.
Because of this accident in geography, Mayor Norris Polson, a Republican, is giving the welcoming speech to the Democratic National Convention.
Guests, delegates to the Democratic National Convention, and fellow Americans, welcome to Los Angeles, where the eyes and the ears of the world are focused upon you. Naturally, we are happy that you chose Los Angeles as your convention site, and in so doing, you have used the best possible judgment. For these crucial times, you have selected the most fitting location, one that reaches back for inspiration and guidance into the very roots of our national history. This area was explored by Juan Cabrillo 78 years before the Pilgrims debarked from the Mayflower at Plymouth Rock. This city was born with 44 hardy settlers 8 years before George Washington became the first president of the United States. Those original 44 citizens were of many racial backgrounds. And under that original influence, Los Angeles has grown to maturity, a city of 2.5 million people. Los Angeles typifies the spirit and energy that built America. It lies at the most hazardous end of the great desert, between mountains of sand on the east and the vast Pacific Ocean on the west. But vision and courage overcame all its handicaps to make this the nation's largest and most populous county. Like the rest of America, we have in a short time accomplished the impossible. We made our deserts blossom. We built and electrified our homes and industries by reaching north 350 miles to the high Sierras and east 300 miles to the Colorado River for water and power. We joined our economy to that of the world by transforming a hopeless mudflat into the West Coast's busiest and one of the world's finest harbors. In the tradition of America, Los Angeles looks only forward. We have no time or patience for the voices of pessimism at this hour of world crisis, when our national will to survive is being challenged. It is proper that you meet in the historic environment of the early humility, strength, and courage that made this nation great. It is fitting, therefore, that all Americans join in seeking divine guidance in the history-making deliberation before both conventions this month. And so let me say with all possible sincerity, Los Angeles welcomes you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Polson. And now, for the official welcome from the Golden State of California, it is my pleasure and honor to present to you the first Democratic governor of California in 20 years, a man who, together with his colleagues and associates on the Democratic ticket in 1958, was elected to the governorship of this great state by a margin of 1,200,000 votes, and a man who is doing a great job as the governor of all of the people of California. It's my great privilege to present to you, for the official welcome from our host state of California, the governor, the Honorable Edmund G. Pat Brown.
Governor Brown had entertained some hopes, it was believed, of becoming a candidate for the presidential nomination himself, but dropped those plans early in the year. Now he is a key figure in the important California delegation. He was going to release that delegation yesterday, changed his mind, and is caucusing with his delegation again tomorrow before officially releasing them. He is a supporter of Senator John Kennedy.
You have him. Mr. Chairman, delegates, guests of this convention, I welcome you to California and the West. I welcome you to a critical task and to a great opportunity. Our company is good. Our purpose is clear. Our expectations are high. We have come to Los Angeles to nominate the next President of the United States. We have come to Los Angeles to offer a new leadership to this nation and to the free world. We meet in a new building on the threshold of a new and challenging decade. In the 1760s, on the eastern edge of the continent, a dedicated group of Americans forged the forces of our revolution. In the 1860s, dedicated men affirmed the struggle, affirmed the strength of the Union in a struggle that ranged almost to the Continental Divide. Now again, in the sixth decade of the 20th century, a continent away from our origins as a nation, we meet to face a new test of our greatness as a people. Here in Los Angeles, on the rim of the Pacific, we are also on the rim of America. From this vantage point, we can look both east across our nation and west across the ocean. As we look back across the nation and the history written on its face by the hasting, driving vitality of the pioneers, we can also see the domestic issues of a new decade. How can we mobilize the miracle of automation and make it work for us? How can we ensure that a longer life will be a benefit and not a burden to our senior citizens? How can we learn to live together in our cities without congestion, without crime, and without disease? How can we fulfill the promise of public education for all? How in a hungry world can we stop wasting our food surpluses and start using them in the struggle against starvation? There are answers to these questions, but they will not be found at Burning Tree, at BBD&O, or for that matter solely at the Bureau of the Budget. From here on the rim of the Pacific, as we look west across the ocean, we see the new imperatives for the 60s. We must stop pretending that communist China does not exist and explore new avenues to reach the Chinese people. We must stop pretending that neutrality is always immoral and find new means to help free nations achieve the fulfillment of freedom. We must stop pretending that just being anti-communist is a foreign policy and start developing an affirmative and effective program abroad, a program rooted in principle, a program with continuity and scope beyond the crippling concept of a brief budget year. And we must stop pretending that segregation is a purely domestic problem and remember that 4/5 of the people of the world are not members of the white race. Above all, as we look across the oceans, we must stop deluding ourselves about our place in the world and our image in the mirror. In the last 8 years, indeed in the last 8 months, we've had enough pretense and sham and self-deception to last the century out. The last decade has dramatized that we are also on the rim of a small but important planet known as Earth. As we look upward through sun and smog and space, we know that the newest of the new issues are on the frontiers of space. On the threshold of this new era, our Republican friends have gone about the country assuring us that failure is success, that bad is good, and that all is well, no matter how it may look. When the summit conference collapsed, the President's staff proclaimed that it was somehow a triumph for the free world. When anti-American riots forced the Japanese to withdraw the invitation to the President, the press releases assured us that he'd had a successful trip. When Democrats and Republicans alike called for action to spur our lagging rate of economic growth, Mr. Nixon brushed it off as growthmanship and told us not to worry. Some people dismiss this glib hypocrisy as the Madison Avenue approach. Some people profess to admire Mr. Nixon's forensic skill in turning a real defeat into a verbal victory. We have heard about Vicuna coats and Caribbean yacht trips, but I tell you that this is the real moral corrosion. It is a cynical distortion of the truth about our position in the world. Worse still, it shatters the tradition of truth and mutual trust between our government and our people. The need in our time is for new leadership which is candid and courageous, sure and strong both at home and abroad. America must be on the move again. We must dare to dream, to do, and to build. We need, in short, the direction and dedication of a Democratic president and the leadership he would give to those who would serve him. I do not exaggerate when I say there are disturbing parallels between 1860 and 1960. America then as now lay under troubled clouds. Her incumbent leadership was immobile, seemingly unaware of the country's fateful drift. In power was a tired party, aligned as is the Republican Party today, with vested interests, unwilling to make sacrifices to avoid the terrible swift sword. We know the shuddering consequences that followed for that generation. Yet for the last 8 years, we've been drifting in the shadow of a far worse catastrophe, an atomic catastrophe. This is no time for politics as usual, or business as usual, or conventions as usual. Let us recognize the awesome magnitude of the task we take up here. Let us be guided not just by personal or party gain, but by the promise and peril with which we and all mankind must now live. Thank you very much.
Governor Pat Brown of California has had his political difficulties in these last several months over the execution of Carol Chessman. And now outside of this sports arena, even as he was addressing the convention, a demonstration against capital punishment. Bill Downs is out there. Bill?
Walter, there are two kinds of politics going on at this convention, one inside and one outside. And you see here on these signs a source of political embarrassment to Governor Brown before the primaries, and which one will be possibly embarrassing to him in the future. But it's a sign that people are worried about things, and these people are marching to banish capital punishment. This is, I gather, grew out of the Carroll Chessman case.
That's right. We've been working against capital punishment, to abolish capital punishment for 5 years now. And we're going to have a statewide convention the 23rd and 24th on the USC campus. And delegates from all over the state are going to meet. We're going to have workshops and plan a program, because these groups are forming all over the country.
Exactly what group is it? I mean, what do you call yourself?
They have different names, like Marin County Against Capital Punishment. We have the Los Angeles Citizens Committee Against Capital Punishment, Glendale Committee.
Is this Democratic or Republican movement or what?
Nonpartisan, by all means. Nonpartisan, absolutely.
Well, and over here, behind this group, you see another group of students marching. They ask for the support of the Southern sit-ins. This is another political movement. The NAACP and other groups say that they are going to picket the Republican convention too. This is a form of what we would call direct politics. Let's have a listen. They have been marching here throughout the convention from its beginning. There'll be more of this. We'll keep an eye on it. And now back to Walter Cronkite.
Our man down at the rostrum, Lou Schollenberger, has captured Governor Pat Brown down there. Come in, Lou.
Governor Brown here on the platform, here in the convention hall. There's been a great deal of confusion as to just where the California delegation stands now. Could you straighten this out, perhaps?
Well, they're technically pledged to me as the favored son, probably until tomorrow morning. But they're divided. When I release them, why, there'll be a division. Some are for Adlai Stevenson, some are for Senator Kennedy, and there are some for both Senators Johnson and Symington.
Would you give us your best estimate of the breakdown of that delegation?
Well, it's hard to say. I would estimate about 41 votes for Senator Kennedy, about 30 for for Governor Stevenson, and the rest are probably evenly divided.
Those 10 divided between whom?
Between Senator Symington and Senator Johnson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brown.
This is a sheer guess. I want you to know that.
Back now to Walter Cronkite.
California is one of the strongholds of Stevenson's support in this convention. He is not an avowed candidate, but has said he would accept the draft. That news conference you saw Mrs. Roosevelt began down at the Biltmore Bowl, well, there she continued to try to stem the tide towards Senator Kennedy by promoting her man, Adlai Stevenson. She said that she was not sure that Kennedy could win in November. She also said she was not sure that he could win the Negro vote for several reasons, she said. And she tried again to promote the candidacy of Adlai Stevenson. One of the key figures at this convention, the permanent chairman of this Democratic convention in past years, has been Sam Rayburn, the Speaker of the House. Nancy Huntsman is with him on the floor now.
Yes, indeed, Walter. I'm here, and with me is not only Speaker Sam Rayburn, but the Governor of Texas as well. Mr. Speaker, I promised to ask you some questions a little bit earlier. I wanted to ask you, sir, just how do you think your candidate, Senator Lyndon Johnson, is doing?
I think he's doing fine. I arrived in town last Thursday. I think he's gained.
Where do you think he's gained, sir?
Well, all over. He's picked up votes all around. The west, east, north.
Any specific states?
Well, I could, but that might be a little secret, you know.
You won't tell us your secret?
No, I won't tell you my secrets, but I don't think anybody's going to be nominated on the first ballot. And I think if the thing goes to third ballot, by Lyndon Johnson's in.
In on the third, is that the word?
That's correct. Well, if it goes to three ballots, I see that sure he's going to be nominated. They might go to fourth ballot, but I think if the thing goes to the losing third ballot, I think Lyndon's in.
Mr. Speaker, let me ask you this. You've been permanent chairman of this National Democratic Convention 3 times. How does it feel to be sitting here, having given up that position?
Well, I'm not as lonesome down here as I was up there. I get to see more people down here, and I'm freer to move around and see delegates and do the things I'd like to do at the convention. And if any smoke-filled rooms, I wouldn't mind being in them.
Have you found any Smokfield rooms yet? Not yet?
Not yet.
Will you report to us if you do?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you, Mr. House Speaker. Now with me here also is the Governor of Texas, Governor Price Daniel. Governor Daniel, you just had a report there I saw saying that Mrs. Roosevelt said Senator Kennedy couldn't win because of his religion and the Northern Negro vote. How about your candidate, Senator Johnson? Can he win the Negro vote?
I certainly think that Senator Johnson can win this election. There are many people who believe that he treats all races fairly, and he was author of the only civil rights bill, the protection of voting rights, that we've passed in recent years. I believe that he can win because by carrying the South, the Southwest, the border states, we would need only one, maybe two large states outside of those to win the election in November. He certainly is electable. All right, yes.
We're up over in that direction.
Yes.
We're right over here to this, right up there, sir, right up there. That's where we're...
Right.
Well, Governor, how about this religious issue that we talked about a minute ago? Do you think, as Mrs. Roosevelt said, that Senator Kennedy can't win because of the religious issue?
No, I do not believe that. I hate to hear that issue raised as much as it has been raised. And I would hate for it to be said that anyone could not win because of religion or the section from which they come. I do find sentiment at this convention, at the governor's conference in many places, that Senator Kennedy cannot win. A majority of the Democratic governors do not believe he can carry their states. But they give other reasons, such as youth, inexperience, as compared with Nixon, things of that nature. And I certainly hope that'll play more part than the man's religion.
Governor Daniel, as governor of Texas, are you going to go all the way with LBJ, or would you...
Yes, all the way with Senator Lyndon Johnson. We're in this fight to stay all the way.
Would you make if Senator Kennedy should get it, would you go unanimously then for him, or would you hold out and stick with Senator Johnson?
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I expect this race to go all the way through for Senator Johnson.
Thank you very much, Governor Price Daniel. Texas, back now to Walter Cronkite.
Thank you, Nancy.
An interesting report just picked up by CBS News correspondent Stuart Novins reports that the Democratic National Committee security officers have notified John Sharon, the assistant director of the Stevenson Campaign Committee, that all the telephone lines from the Stevenson trailer outside the arena have been tapped. And quite naturally, Sharon is out to investigate. He left his downtown hotel headquarters for the convention hall to take a personal look at whatever that situation seems to indicate. It would not be surprising if such things would occur, however, in the heat of a political campaign. And time now for Betty Furness and something new from Westinghouse.
Well, here's my news, Walter. The most important news in refrigeration in the last 10 years. It's this exclusive new Westinghouse center drawer, a separate drawer set right into the middle of the refrigerator. A revolutionary new separate refrigerated compartment for all your meats and vegetables. Now, you see how big this center drawer is? But the huge size is only part of the story. You see, it's divided into two compartments, and each compartment has its own temperature. Now, this side is the meat keeper, big enough to hold 21 pounds of meat. And the temperature is exactly right to keep that meat, even hamburger, store fresh for 7 days without freezing. On this side is the vegetable crisper, with the temperature just right to keep all vegetables crisp, colorful, and dewy fresh. Now, the size of this huge center drawer, plus the roomy refrigerator section and the giant capacity freezer, means you only have to shop once a week. What's more, this new 16-foot Westinghouse center drawer refrigerator is completely frost-free. There is no frost ever. Not here in the marvelous new center drawer, not here in the huge refrigerator section, and not here in the giant 190-pound capacity freezer. This marvelous new idea in refrigeration is now on display, but only at your nearby Westinghouse dealers, because only Westinghouse makes this exclusive new center drawer refrigerator, and you can be sure if it's Westinghouse.
We pause now for station identification.
Stay tuned for more convention coverage on the CBS television network.
Back here at our CBS News anchor position in the sports arena, the Democratic National Convention in Los Angeles. The convention now underway for the last hour. Oratory continues in this opening session while the maneuvering goes on off the floor and downtown at the Biltmore Hotel in an attempt to stem the drive of Senator John Kennedy for a first ballot nomination. Let's go now to Richard C. Hottelet and Governor of Connecticut, Abraham Ribicoff. Hello, Dick. Hello, Dick.
Only a few minutes ago, the only general enthusiasm on the floor here was when the official photograph was taken and people started to shout down in front. But now the convention seems to be warming up, not so much, however, as to take into complete take out of control the men who are really running affairs here. One of them is Governor Abraham Ribicoff of Connecticut, who is the floor manager for Senator Kennedy's campaign. Governor, are you so sure of your case that you don't have to be hard at work now?
No, that's wrong. I've learned in politics you never take anything for granted, and you are always working until the final vote is cast.
The talk down here, of course, is largely in terms of stop Kennedy when Kennedy is mentioned. Is there any chance of that?
No, I don't think so, because in talking to many of the delegations and many of the people for the other candidates, you definitely get the feeling that they are for Jack, realize it is going to be Jack Kennedy, and are waiting to cast their vote for him, too.
There is talk, especially in the Stevenson camp, that they are beginning to take delegates' votes away from you.
No, I would say no. I think there's some strength for Stevenson in California, and as a matter of fact, some of the so-called Stevenson strength you will find voting for Jack Kennedy when the balloting starts.
Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt just a few minutes ago intimated that Senator Kennedy would have some trouble in the election campaign because of his religion, and she said that he would lose some Negro support.
Well, Mrs. Roosevelt has said that before. We have been up and down this road. Senator Kennedy proved in West Virginia and in Oregon and all the primaries that religion isn't a factor, and I think anyone who talks about religion being a factor does a certain disservice to the basic decency of the American people. I'm rather surprised you made that statement.
Governor Ribicoff, whom would you lean to, or whom does the senator lean to as a running mate?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, frankly, I've never discussed this with Senator Kennedy, but I am sure that he will pick a man who he believes will be a great asset in the vice presidency for all the people of the United States.
What specific assets would he be looking for most? In what field, geographically or politically?
Well, I would say that any section is eligible, with the exception of probably the northeastern section, as you understand. And I don't think that any basic decision has been made on that score.
Would Symington be the most valuable?
Oh, I don't know. I would say Stuart Symington has many pluses, but there are many other men who have many pluses, too.
Well, we'll be back to you, Governor Ribicoff. Thank you very much. Now back to Walter Cronkite in the booth.
Included in that maneuvering going on at the Biltmore Hotel and then the delegation hotels scattered over this great metropolis of Los Angeles was a meeting with Orville Freeman, we understand, with Senator Kennedy. Orville Freeman, the governor of Minnesota, has been suggested by Senator Hubert Humphrey as a likely running mate for Mr. Kennedy, should he get this nomination here. And Senator Kennedy apparently is looking with some favor on Governor Freeman, although he certainly has not committed himself yet, and he has said that there are several available people in the party. Governor Freeman, however, would meet the qualifications that Kennedy himself has set forth, qualifications of being a Middle Westerner, of having a long-time successful interest in the party, and of being from a farm state. The oratory continues on the floor, and we are awaiting the principal orator of them all, the man who will give the keynote speech here at the convention, and, as is the habit with the Democrats, also be the temporary chairman of the convention. We will go back to the floor now as Paul Butler makes another introduction.
Of this convention on behalf of the members of the National Committee. And may I please request again, as I have for other speakers, that the aisles be cleared and that the delegates take their chairs, and please cooperate with the chair in maintaining some degree of decorum and order in the hall.
Paul Butler's had a little trouble with an unruly crowd and has explained that the acoustics in the hall make it particularly difficult unless all of the delegates and the spectators are quiet. Chairman Butler will address the convention himself in what is in a sense his swan song since he is retiring as Democratic National Chairman. Let's listen to Paul Butler.
Party of the United States, the party of enlightenment. The responsibility of this convention is to nominate candidates for the offices of President and Vice President of the United States, and to adopt and promulgate a platform as a statement of policies and beliefs of our national party. We will meet this responsibility, and I have no hesitation in telling you that next November we will win. But we have another and a more far-reaching responsibility. We are responsible not only as delegates of a political party, but as citizens of the United States and as members of the human race. What we say and do in this convention hall will have a profound and perhaps a decisive effect on the future of our country and of all mankind. And as my dear friend Paul Ziffrin has said already, we are not alone here. This convention is being attended by hundreds of millions of people. They are the silent delegates. We cannot see them or hear them, but they are present. In fact, the whole world is here in this hall. Through the miracle of modern communications, the words we speak, the actions we take, will be read, heard, and seen on the instant, and judged in every city and village in America, on every lonely farm, across the wide prairies and the narrow ocean, in the old capitals of Europe and the new capitals of Asia and Africa, by plain people everywhere, by men and women of all creeds and